Welcome to the Migration Report, brought to you by the folks at the Up Duck Podcast, in partnership with the Wisconsin Waterfowl Association. Together, we'll bring you weekly bird activity reports from the various regions across the state of Wisconsin. All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of the Migration Report. This is your weekly report from across the various regions of the state of Wisconsin. And this report is from our contributors spread across the state of Wisconsin, and it's from the prior 7 days. We bring everything together and spit it out for you into a nice, concise report. A big thank you, as always, goes out to our contributors who help make this happen, right? Without them reporting into us what they see, we wouldn't be able to do what we do here, and as well as the Wisconsin Waterfowl Association, right, for their assistance in bringing this Migration Report podcast to life. Now, as we head into one of the final stretches of the season here, right, this past week brought a mix of ice, stale birds, and just enough surprises to keep everyone going here. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump in and see what everybody is seeing across the state. We're going to start in the Northeast, where up on the bay, there's a good number of divers, right? We got more mergansers showing up. Once again, though, the story here is wind and water levels that are really dictating success, right? You hit the right day, the right wind, you're in for a lot of opportunities. If you hit the wrong day, you're going to get humbled. It's going to be a really long day. That's been real tough there. Hunting pressure has been extremely low on the bay. A couple mornings with essentially no other boats at the launch there. Further inland, we had some folks putting in a whole bunch of effort during the week. 5 straight days of it, actually. While the hunting wasn't particularly fast, some would even describe it as slow, our folks were able to scratch out a few birds, including bluebills, buffies, goldeneye, pintail, and a few mallards mixed in. Folks did report seeing more mallards around now than they have the past few weeks. But overall, though, the combo of diver and puddle duck numbers still feels down compared to prior years. Now, early week snow and cold did lock up some of our skinny water and even required folks to be breaking ice, which is always fun, but typically is required this time of year. And even with the gun deer season opener this past weekend, we did have a few diehards out in the marsh, still chasing ducks, which is great to see. The theme up in the Northeast is pretty simple here. We got time. It is running out if you are hunting inland waters. We still have hope, though, for one more good push of birds. And looking at the weather forecast, we might get that. So with the Northeast out of the way, let's swing over to the northwest part of the state. This is north of Highway 10 and west of Interstate 39. So the story hasn't changed much here, right? We have low numbers and stale birds across the Mississippi and the surrounding marshes. Several hunters, right, said is about as dead as they've ever seen it, or as dead as they can remember. Now, we did have one contributor report that most of the wimpy ducks are long gone, and without significant weather, we don't have fresh mallards arriving to replenish our stock and bring in more huntable ducks. Over this past week, we did have folks, they worked through snow, freezing temperatures, locked up backwaters, even a day of heavy fog, and essentially anything without current due to the cold temps overnight was being iced over, and it was iced over in the mornings when folks were trying to get out and find places to be. Mallards and geese remain the most prevalent species. Folks did report there were a few migrating flocks of gadwall, widgeon, some common mergs that showed up in week as well. Pressure, just not a lot of pressure in the Northwest at all. Some folks had marshes to themselves. Others had maybe one other hunter out there with them. The most consistent success, though, if you're in the Northwest, came from folks who were busting ice holes and running traffic between ag fields and refuge water. Birds that wanted open water, they were coming in hot. And that's where people were finding their success. We did have folks report a few migrating flocks, birds that were spotted later in the week as the temperatures warmed up and some of the ice cleared. Overall, right, we had mallards, we had a handful of gray ducks, a couple of green wings, a lot of stale bird behavior, and then traffic. Run-in traffic was the best play in the Northwest.
And about the only way that folks in that region that were talking to us about the only way they found success. In the southeast, we did show a good mix of birds. We had temps that were really cool over this past weekend. I think my truck showed 24 degrees at pre 6 a.m. on this past Saturday, right, for the deer season opener there. We got a ton of we got a ton of geese around. There's a good amount of mallards. There's some divers mixed in, ringers, buffleheads as well. A lot of stale birds, though, a lot of educated birds, a lot of birds that, especially where I'm at in particular, right, they're inside of city limits. They're on those retention ponds. They're on their urban roosts, and it's just it's been a challenge to get them off of those spots and into huntable opportunities. And that's really the story in the southeast. Stale educated birds, and birds that, if you're around an urban area, birds are using it. You're seeing them, you just can't quite get to them. Now, down in the southwest part of the state is where we're going to wrap things up, where we had a tale of two hunts, separated by the weekday and the weekend. During the week, things were slow. Our contributors reported birds being cagey. Spreads were not convincing birds to work. Lots of stale behavior, the same stale behavior that everyone statewide had been reporting. Water levels were still down in the southwest part of the state, and we had inconsistent winds. We had winds out of the east, which is really strange for this time of year, last week, and that really kept ducks parked in one place for most of the day. Right, slow, stale. Right, we're waiting on a fresh push of birds. That was the story during the week, and the weekend came, and we had a big push of divers that hit the river. Matt, right, one of the co-hosts for the Upduck podcast here, he had a great shoot on Sunday, had his limit by 720 on divers, and he said a whole bunch of boats around him were also getting ducks too. Everybody was shooting, everybody was having a good time. Right, and it sounded like one of those days that you live for there, where you shoot your limit and you sit there and watch the show that keeps coming. So, right, folks on the river over the weekend, they hit it just right. If you hunted during the week last week in the southwest part of the state, it was pretty rough though, from the sounds of it. So, a lot of fun there if you hunted over the weekend, and really across the state though, right, the story was stale birds, low pressure, frozen water. We had a few real cool nights that froze up and iced over a lot of our backwaters. And then we had a few surprise pushes of divers that really kept everybody interested, kept things fresh for certain groups, certain parts of the state. We're all hanging around. We're all hoping for that next weather system that's going to bring another big push of birds before A, the season closes, or B, things freeze over. We got a big cold front coming through. Right, it's coming through Wednesday, Thursday this week, right? And I've got a couple of folks that I know that are planning to go out and try to shoot some ducks before they come home and stuff themselves with turkey and mashed potatoes and gravy and corn and stuffing and all the fixings. We'll see what happens here. The temps after that are going to be really cold overnight. I'm worried about things freezing up and locking up here. So we'll see what happens, but I'm also hoping for a fresh push of birds. I'm going to be heading out Wednesday morning. So if you are going out this week, if you're in the northern zone, good luck in your final week of the season. If you're in the south zone or anywhere across the state, please, everyone, be safe. Have a happy Thanksgiving. We will certainly see you all next week with one of our last migration reports of the year. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on Monday, December 1st.